وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ.
And He has raised up the heaven, and has set a balance.
7. Almost all the commentators have interpreted mizan, balance, to mean justice, and set the balance, to imply that Allah has established the entire system of the universe on justice. Had there been no harmony and balance and justice established among the countless stars and planets moving in space, and the mighty forces working in this universe, and the innumerable creatures and things found here, this life on earth would not have functioned even for a moment. Look at the creatures existing in the air and water and on land for millions and millions of years on this earth. They continue to exist only because full justice and balance has been established in the means and factors conducive to life. In case there occurs a slight imbalance of any kind, every tract of life would become extinct.
أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ.
That you may not transgress in the balance.
وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانَ.
But weigh things equitably, and skimp not in the balance.
8. That is, as you are living in a balanced universe, whose entire system has been established on justice, you should also adhere to justice. For if you act unjustly within the sphere in which you have been given authority, and fail to render the rights of others, you would indeed be rebelling against the nature of the universe. For the nature of this universe does not admit of injustice and perversion and violation of the rights. Not to speak of a major injustice, even if a person fraudulently deprives another of an ounce of something, by giving him short measure, he disturbs the balance of the entire universe. This is the second important part of the Quranic teaching that has been presented in these 3 verses. The first teaching is Tawhid and the second is justice. Thus, in a few brief sentences the people have been told what teaching has been brought by the Quran which the merciful God has sent for the guidance of man.
وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَهَا لِلْأَنَامِ.
And He has set up the earth for all beings.
9. Now from here to verse 20, mention is being made of the blessing and bounties of God and of those manifestations of His might by which both man and jinn are benefiting, and whose natural and moral demand is that although they have the option to believe or not to believe, they should adopt the way of their Lord's service and obedience willingly by their own free choice. 10. The word wada in the original means to compose, make, prepare, keep and inscribe, and anim the creatures, which includes man and all other living things. According to Ibn Abbas, anim includes everything which has a soul. Mujahid takes it in the meaning of the living creatures. Qatada, Ibn Zayd and Shabi say that all living things are anim. Hassan Basri says that both the men and the jinn are included in its meaning. The same meanings have been given by the lexicographers. This shows that the people who deduce from this verse the command of making land the state property are in error. This is an ugly attempt to introduce alien theories forcibly into the Quran which are neither supported by the words of the verse nor by the context. Anim is not used only for human society, but it includes all other creatures of the earth as well, and setting of the earth for anim does not mean that it should be the common property of all. Besides, the context here also does not indicate that the object of the verse is to state some economic principle. This, in fact, is meant to impress the truth that Allah made and prepared this earth in such a way that it became a fit abode for every kind of living being. It has not become so by itself, but by the will and power of the Creator. He in His wisdom placed it at a suitable distance, and created such conditions on it which made it possible for the different species to exist and stay alive on it. For explanation, see E.Ns 73, 74 of Surah An-Naml, E.Ns 29, 32 of Surah Yasin, E.Ns 90, 91 of Surah Al-Mu'min, E.Ns 11 to 13 of Surah Hamim Sajda, E.Ns 7 to 10 of Surah Az-Zukhruf, Yen 7 of Surah Al-Jathiyah.
فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام.
Therein are fruit and palm trees with their dates and sheaths.
والحب ذو العصف والريحان
And a variety of corn, with both husk and grain.
11. That is, grain for men and husk for the animals.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the bounties of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
12. The word Allah as repeated over and over again in the subsequent verses has been translated differently at different places. Therefore, it would be useful to understand at the outset how vast this word is in meaning and what are the different shades of meaning it contains. The lexicographers and commentators generally have explained Allah to mean blessings and bounties. The translators also have given the same meaning of this word, and the same has been reported from Ibn Abbas, Qatada and Hassan Basri. The major argument that supports this meaning is the Prophet's, peace be upon him, own statement that the jinn on hearing this verse being recited would respond to it, saying La Baishai in Minanai Marika Rabbana Nukadhib surprised face our Lord, we do not deny any of your blessings. Therefore, we do not subscribe to the view of some present-day scholars, who say that Allah is never used in the meaning of the blessing. Another meaning of this word is power and wonders of power, or excellent manifestations of power. Ibn Jarir Tabari has reported that Ibn Zayd took the words Fabi'i Allahi Rabbikuma in the meaning of Fabi'i Qudrat Allah. Ibn Jarir himself has taken Allah in the meaning of power and might in his commentary of verses 37 to 38. Imam Razi has also made this observation in his commentary of verses 14 to 16. These verses do not describe the blessings but the powers of Allah, and in the commentary of verses 22 to 23, these describe the wonders of power and not the blessings. Its third meaning is virtue, praiseworthy qualities, and perfections. Though this meaning has not been mentioned by the lexicographers and commentators, this word has often been used in this meaning in Arabic poetry. Thus, we have taken this word in its vastest meaning and translated it suitably keeping in view the context in which it occurs. However, at some places the word Allah may have several senses in one and the same place, but due to limitations of translation we have had to adopt only one meaning. For example, in this verse after making mention of the creation of the earth and of making the best arrangements for the supply of provisions to the creatures, it has been said, which of the Allah of your Lord will you deny? Here, Allah has not been used in the meaning of the blessings only but also in the meaning of the manifestations of Allah Almighty's power and His praiseworthy attributes. It is a wonder of His might that He fashioned this earth in such a marvelous manner that countless species of creatures live here and an endless variety of fruits and grain are grown on it. And it is due to His praiseworthy qualities that He not only created these creatures but also made arrangements for their sustenance and the supply of provisions for them, and the arrangements also so perfect that their food is not only nutritious but also pleasing to the taste and sight. In this connection, reference has been made to only one excellence of Allah Almighty's workmanship for the sake of example, viz., the creation of the date palm fruit in sheaths. Keeping this one example in view, one may consider what excellences of art have been devised and shown in the packing of banana, pomegranates, orange, coconut, and other fruits, and how each of the different sorts of the grains and pulses which we so thoughtlessly cook and eat are produced finely packed and covered in ears and pods and clusters. 13. Denying implies the several attitudes that the people adopt in respect of Allah Almighty's blessings and manifestations of His might, and His praiseworthy attributes. For example, some people do not at all admit that the Creator of all things is Allah Almighty. They think that all this is a mere byproduct of the matter, or an accidental happening, which is unrelated with any wisdom and skill and workmanship. This is open denial. Some other people do admit that the Creator of these things is Allah, but regard others beside Him also as associates in Godhead. They render thanks to others for His blessings. They adore others although they eat His provisions. This is another form of denial. Obviously, it would be the height of ingratitude if a person, while admitting that a certain person had done him a favor, rendered thanks to another, who had not in fact done him that favor. for this act of his would be an express proof that he regarded the other person as his benefactor whom he was rendering the thanks. There are still others who acknowledge Allah alone as the creator of all things and the bestower of all blessings, but do not admit that they should obey the commands of their creator and sustainer, and follow his injunctions. This is another form of ingratitude and denial of the blessings, for the person who behaves so denies the right of the bestower of the blessing although he acknowledges the blessing itself. Some other people neither disavow the blessing nor deny the right of the bestower of the blessing, but in practice there is no appreciable difference between their conduct and the conduct of a denier. This is not verbal denial but denial in practice.
خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار.
He has created man from dry rotten clay like the potters.
14. The order of the initial stages of the creation of man, as given at different places in the Quran, seems to be as follows: 1. Turab, i.e. earth or dust. 2. Teen, i.e. clay made by mixing water with earth. 3. Tinilazib, sticky clay, i.e. a clay which becomes sticky when left alone for a long time. 4. Hama in musnin, i.e. clay with a stink in it. 5. Salsalim min hama in masnan kalfakar, i.e. the rotten clay which when dried becomes like baked pottery. 6. Bashar, i.e. the one who was made from this last form of the earth, in whom Allah breathed of his spirit, to whom the angels were commanded to bow down, and from whose species his mate was created. 7. Thumma jala naslahu min salalatin min main mahan, then spread his progeny by means of an extract of the nature of a despicable water, for which the word nutfa has been used at other places. For these stages one may look up the following verses of the Quran in sequence. Kamasali Adam Kalaka. Humin Turib, Surah Al-Imran, Ayat 59. Bada Kalkalinsani Min Tin, Surah As-Sajda, Ayat 7. Inna Kalakna Hum Min Tinalazib, Surah As-Safat, Ayat 11. The fourth and fifth stages have been described in the verse being explained, and the later stages in the following verses. Inni Kalikan Basharan Min Teen. Fida Sawaytuhu wa Nafaktu Fihi Minri Fakallahu Sajidin. Surah Su'ad, Ayat 71 to 72. Kalakakam min nafsin wahidatan wa kalaka minha zawjaha wabatha minuma rijalan kathiran wa nisan. Surah An-Nisa, Ayat 1. Thumma jala naslahu min salalatin min main mahan. Surah As-Sajda, Ayat 8. Afayna kalaknakam min turabin thumma min nutfatin. Surah Al-Hajj, Ayat 5.
وخلق الجان من مارج من نار.
And has created the jinn from the flame of fire.
15. The words in the original are Mim marriage I min nar. Nar signifies fire of a special nature and not the fire which is produced by burning wood or coal, and marriage means a pure, smokeless flame. The verse means that just as the first man was created out of earth, then passing through various stages of creation, the clay model adopted the shape of a living man of flesh and blood, and then his progeny spread by means of the sperm drop, so was the first jinn created from a pure flame of fire, or a fire free of smoke, and then the species of jinn spread from his progeny. The position of the first jinn among the jinn is the same as of Adam, peace be upon him, among human beings. After taking the shape of a living man, the body of Adam and the human beings born of his progeny retain no relationship with the dust from which they were originally created. Though even now our body is entirely a compound of the earthly substances, these substances have taken the form of flesh and blood, and after being made a living body it has become quite a different thing from a mere lump of clay. The same also is true of the jinn. Their being also is essentially fiery. But just as we are not a mere lump of earth, so also they are not a mere flame of fire. This verse proves two things. First, that the jinn are not simply spirit, but are material beings of a special nature, but since they have been composed of pure fiery substances, they remain invisible to human beings who have been created of earthly substances. The same has been referred to in this verse. Satan and his party see you from where you cannot see them. Surah Al-Araf, Ayat 27. Likewise, the jinns being fast-moving, they're adopting different shapes and forms easily, and they're penetrating into different places imperceptibly where things made of earthly substances cannot penetrate. Or if they do, their penetration becomes perceptible. All these things are possible and understandable only because they are essentially a fiery creation. The other thing that we come to know from this verse is that the jinn are not only a creation of a wholly different nature from human beings, but the substance of their creation also is absolutely different from that of man, animal, vegetable, and solid matter. This verse explicitly points out the error of the viewpoint of those people who regard the jinn as a kind of human beings. According to their interpretation, the meaning of creating man of the dust and the jinn of the fire is to describe the difference of the temperamental nature of the two kinds of the people. One kind of them are humble by nature, and they are men in the true sense, and the other kind of the people are wicked by nature and fiery in temper, who may better be called devils. This is, however, no commentary of the Quran but its distortion. In Yen 14 above we have shown in detail how the Quran itself has fully described the meaning of creating man from the earth. After reading all these details, can a reasonable person understand that the object of all this is only to define the humility of the good men? Moreover, how can a sound-minded person understand that the meaning of creating man of rotten, dry clay and the jinn of the flame of pure fire is the difference of the separate moral characteristics of the two individuals or groups with different temperaments belonging to the same human species? For further explanation, see Yen 53 of Surah Ad-Dariyat.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ?
Which of the wonders of your Lord's power will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
16. Here, in view of the context, it is more appropriate to translate Allah as wonders of power. But in this the aspect of the blessing is also present. Just as it is a wonderful manifestation of Allah's power to have brought into existence marvelous creatures like man from the dust and the jinn from the flame of fire, so for both these creatures this is also a great blessing that Allah not only granted them a body but gave each such a structure, and endowed each with such powers and capabilities that they became able to perform unique works in the world. Though we do not know much about the jinn, man is present before us. Had he been given the body of a fish or a bird or a monkey along with the human brain, he could not have used, with that body, the mental powers to any advantage. Then, is it not a supreme blessing of Allah that He blessed man with the most suitable body also, so that he may exploit the mental powers granted to him efficiently? Consider the hands, the feet, the eyes, the ears, the tongue and the erect stature as against the intellect and reason, and the capabilities of workmanship and artistic skill, and one will feel that the Creator has provided a deep relationship and harmony between them without which the human body would have remained useless. Then, the same thing points out Allah's praiseworthy qualities too. How could the men and jinn of such quality and rank be brought into existence without knowledge, wisdom, mercy and a profound creative power? For such miracles of creation cannot be performed by accidents and automatic blind and deaf laws of nature.
رب المشرقين ورب المغربين.
Lord of the two easts and of the two wests is He.
17. The two easts and the two wests may mean the 2 points of sunrise and the 2 points of sunset on the shortest day of winter and the longest day of summer, as well as the easts and the wests of the 2 hemispheres of the earth. On the shortest day of winter the sun rises and sets making a small acute angle. On the contrary, on the longest day of summer it rises and sets making a wide obtuse angle. Between them its points of rising and setting go on shifting every day, for which at another place in the Quran, Surah Al-Marij, Ayat 40, the words Rabul Mashriq wal Magharib have been used. Likewise, at the time the sun rises in one hemisphere of the earth, it sets in the other hemisphere, thus producing 2 easts and 2 wests of the earth. There are several meanings of calling Allah Lord of the 2 easts and the 2 wests. First, that it is by His command that the system of the rising and setting of the sun and their changing pattern during the year is functioning. Second, that Allah alone is the master and ruler of the earth and the sun. Had they their own separate lords, this regular system of the rising and setting of the sun on the earth could not have functioned and continued to function permanently. Third, that the master and sustainer of both the easts and both the wests is one Allah alone. To him belong the creations living between them. He alone is nourishing them, and it is for their sustenance that he has established this wise system of the rising and setting of the sun on the earth.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ
Which of the powers of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
18. Here also, although in view of the context, power seems to be a more conspicuous meaning of Allah, yet, besides, the aspect of blessing and praiseworthy qualities is also present in it. It is a great blessing that Allah Almighty has prescribed the rule of the rising and setting of the sun, for by means of it the changes of the crops and seasons are regulated, with which countless interests of the men and animals and vegetables are attached. Likewise, it is Allah's mercy and providence and wisdom that He has made these arrangements by His power to meet the respective needs and requirements of the creatures He has created on the earth.